Right there.
Great. So it is 7:01 p.m. And I will call the June meeting of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission to order. For the final time, I'm your host, Joe Andriano. And today we are starting with a presentation. The presentation is representatives of ACRPC and VTrans, which will be presenting the findings of the Virgins Planning and Environmental Linkage Study. So I think I will hand it over to Adam for any initial remarks, and then the presenters can introduce themselves and we'll take it from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. So we have with us tonight Matthew Arancio from VTrans. Matt, you want to say hello or just wave to the crowd?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here this evening.
Okay, great. And Mike Winslow, who's our Assistant Director and Transportation Planner.
Good evening, everybody. And it'll come around to me eventually. There we go.
They are going to be sharing basically the final report and final results of the planning and environmental linkages study that we've been working on with the city of Virgins and surrounding communities for about the past 3 years or so. We finished it. We just recently finished it up. The consultants have presented their final report to VTrans and to us. We had basically a wrap-up public meeting, and that is what we're going to share with all of you as well, because it was a pretty large planning project for Addison County, and we want to make sure you all know what we did and the results of it and what to expect going forward. So with that, Matt, thank you for being here. Mike, you should be able to share your screen, Matt. I think you're already a presenter.
Just had to send a request to do so.
Okay, I just allowed it.
Let's see here. And everybody should be able to see my screen now, hopefully.
We have it. And
I see thumbs up and we have it. So Mike, why don't you take it away? We decided to divide up the presentation with Mike starting and I will conclude. So Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, everybody, for having us tonight. The Virgins Pell study is a planning study to address truck traffic in downtown Virgins. For those of you that have been around the community for a long time, you may be asking, haven't we done this before? The answer is, of course, yes, that we have done this before, but this is not an independent study. This follows directly from the 2019 study that was funded by ACRPC and VTrans. That 2019 study was integral to this because it convinced VTrans that there really was a problem. 400 large trucks heading every day through downtown Virgins, 300 medium-sized trucks going through the town, numbers unlike any other community in the state in this sort of situation. In addition, the 2019 study convinced VTrans there was a potential solution that could be kept very close to the heart of VTrans, or the heart of Virgins, and that there was a great deal of public support for implementing that solution. So those three things in combination allowed VTrans to request a much more in-depth study that had a much more significant public input process that engaged federal partners in a way that no previous study has done, in the hopes that it could streamline permitting and moving forward with implementing an actual solution. So information about what a PELS is in this slide, but essentially it is a reasonably new planning process within the federal government. This is only the second PELS study that has taken place in the state of Vermont. Other states use it much more regularly, but it's something new for Vermont, and it was hoped that it will make permitting much easier when you get into an actual project implementation style phase. So Matthew, for the next slide. One of the key pieces of this of the Pell study is coming up with a purpose and need. We were able to utilize the purpose and need study the purpose and needs statement that came out of the 2019 study. And what the purpose and need statement does is it provides boundaries. It tells the funding partners exactly the project is meant to do this and no. Inevitably, in every planning study, questions come up about why aren't we also doing this thing or that thing or the other thing, and the purpose and need statement tells what we're trying to achieve in this. It's about limiting not congestion in downtown Virginia, which is very different from most other transportation planning studies. We're specifically targeting truck traffic. How can we allow truck traffic to move through the region without impairing the quality of life in downtown Virginia, which is the economic driver for northern Addison County. So it's a little bit different from other studies in that way. So we wanted to maintain mobility and access and potentially improve it, improve safety, circulation, and ideally resilience. One thing we heard from Virgins in particular is, boy, for a resilience standpoint, it would be nice to have another bridge over the Otter Creek, like the Cross Street Bridge in Middlebury that got built. So that's kind of hidden in that resilience component. It's not identified directly, but that's where it comes out. Maintain the quality of life in a downtown, maintain the economic vitality of both Virgins and the surrounding communities. That was important in this. And meet the land use needs of the communities and the region as a whole. Next slide. And as I mentioned at the beginning, a real big difference between this study and previous studies is the degree of public outreach that we had. We identified stakeholders and had focus group meetings. We identified key community partners in underserved communities like the trailer park in Virgins and went to them and had a public meeting then. We had outreach sessions all around the region, not just in Virgins. We had them in Canton, we had them in New Haven. It's really kind of hard to find good venues for lots of people in some of these smaller communities. We overpacked the Panton Town Hall when we were there. We hired a community liaison who went out and did individual meetings with concerned people. And that has allowed us to put together a planning package that I hope, and Matthew, please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but when VTrans goes into funding a major project, it has multiple stages: a scoping stage, a design engineering stage, a right-of-way stage, and all that happens prior to implementation. I think that what the Pell study does is gets us through that scoping stage already, or at least very close to that. And then so the next step would be getting into design and engineering and implementation. But Matthew's going to go into some of the final results of the study and what those next steps would be. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. And just before I go to the next slide, I will be remiss in just kind of embellishing Mike's note about our community liaison. You all might have met him at one point or another, but Jim Gish is certainly been a fixture in this study in terms of his involvement and his very personal touch in reaching out to stakeholders, apart from the ample amount of meetings that we've had with folks at a wider scale. And so just really want to just say a brief shout out to Jim Gish. I know he's probably not there right now, but certainly he was really great. And you might see him again as he is involved in other projects in the region. So if you need to talk to somebody, he's a good person to talk to for multiple projects. So as Mike mentioned, the purpose of a preliminary environmental linkage study is to do a first evaluation or first screening of opportunities and constraints from a planning perspective for future changes. And so right here is, after developing the purpose and need statement and after working through some of the initial existing conditions, the consultant team came up with a preliminary series of routes. Some of these alternatives, were informed by previous studies in the region, as you all know, and some of them were added as part of this study. And so what you see here is how the alternatives came into being and how they were drilled down to the alternatives that were ultimately finally evaluated as part of the study. So we started with 13 alternatives that were pre-screened and then already narrowed down to 5 alternatives. 4 of those alternatives would be new roadways. So you can see on this map here, the pink and blue, the green and orange alternatives would all be completely new roadways. One alternative would use existing roadways. That's the purple alternative. So you can see here on 7 and going across 17. There is, as in all federally funded studies, and certainly in any kind of NEPA pre-screening or other evaluation, federal evaluation, comparing alternatives, a no-build option as well. And that would maintain 22A in its existing configuration. And each of these alternatives has strengths and weaknesses. And that's the purpose of this study, is to drill down to what those are, compare them to each other, and make some informed decisions about which of these alternatives would be appropriate for future evaluation under subsequent phases of this project, should it proceed. So drilling down a little bit more, actually, these are a bit out of order, sorry. So I'm going to jump down. Oh, excuse me. So 3 alternatives were all here. Let me go back here. So this slide is very important because effectively what we did was we took we took the purpose and need statement, and which is a qualitative statement, and turned it into quantitative measures. Those quantitative measures are focused on environmental impact, community impact, performance of transportation facility, and other series of factors. And so the long and the short of it here is that you can learn more about the entire slew. There's a very large Excel table that essentially translates what you saw in that purpose and need statement into quantitative measures. This table is a distilled version of that, which brings it down further to just how well alternatives performed based off of the broad categories of transportation needs and economic and land use needs. We also in this table provided a preliminary cost estimate to get at a better understanding of what these alternatives would look like compared against each other. So based on this screening and based on this evaluation table that again applied quantitative measures to our qualitative purpose and need statement, it was recommended by the consultant team that the blue alternative and the pink alternative meet the purpose and need statement and should be moved forward for consideration. During subsequent phases of this study and evaluation of this study, it was determined that and it was requested that the purple alternative also proceed. And I'll just do a little sidebar here to talk about how that purple alternative in particular came back into the equation, which is an important part of the public outreach and the important part of engagement around this study and the partnership in this study was that there were committees that helped inform decision-making processes. So we had a technical committee composed mainly of agency folks at VTrans, other agencies as well, the Regional Planning Commission, and others. And so that committee was charged with evaluating alternatives and providing a first series of recommendations that would then go to a subsequent policy committee. The policy committee was composed of representatives from each of the towns within the study area, again, the Regional Planning Commission, VTrans as well, and the policy committee's overall reason for being was to make final recommendations and essentially concur with the consultant recommendations that were then evaluated by the technical group, approved by the technical group, and sent to this evaluation committee. So this was not just VTrans and ACRPC working alone, but we worked with stakeholders both within the agency and externally along the way here. So for the purposes, and going back to this statement here, blue and pink alternatives met the purpose and need statement and were moved forward by the consultant recommendation. Upon additional evaluation from the policy committee, it was determined that the purple alternative should be also included, which is why it appears here today. So just to go back, and you'll forgive me for again my slide foibles here. Just to give you an overview of these alternatives, you'll see the pink route here. This was one of the first recommended alternatives, by the consultant team. And you'll see that it hugs the western boundaries of Vergennes, crossing the Otter Creek, and then proceeding to intersect just north of downtown Vergennes. Again, providing a northwest bypass to downtown Vergennes just within the city limits. Blue route is a very similar alternative to pink route, with the difference being that it is not entirely held, or is not entirely aligned within Vergennes itself, and instead passes through Panton and a smidgen through Ferrisburgh for that matter. And so again, just providing alternatives both within Vergennes boundaries entirely and not. Again, similar to the pink alternative, an important factor included in this would be a new multi-span bridge over Outer Creek that would be required as part of this alternative. And then finally, purple alternative, as I previously mentioned, makes use of existing roadways and actually shoring up of those roadways with additional make safe measures so that they can accommodate additional commercial vehicles and higher volume of vehicles along these roadways. So you'll see here, this is shoring up and using a combination of 17 and 7 to essentially bypass Virgins entirely and provide an existing network, provide an alternative that draws upon the an existing network. So again, sorry for jumping back and forth here. These are alternatives. The main takeaways, as I mentioned, are distilling qualitative measures or qualitative variables within the purpose and need statement to quantitative measures agreed upon by the study team with the consultant, with the guidance from the consultant, and then applied to the evaluations that you see here, which of course are in greater detail within the study document, along with the preliminary cost estimates that you see. So the big question is, where does this all go from here? And so, as Mike mentioned, the study is concluded. The report is finalized, and right now, the question is that essentially, where will we go? And the question is that is to be determined. And so what that means is in order to proceed to the next steps that Mike mentioned within the VTrans project development process, what is required is additional funding. As you saw, the price tags for those projects were substantial. And so additional funding is a first step. And then apart from that, continued prioritization and advocacy on this by the Regional Planning Commission in partnership with municipalities that would be within the project area to proceed with it. And so that's why you see that, we've completed a number of tasks, the purpose and need, identifying the recommended alternatives, and then again, thinking ahead to finalizing this report and coming up with an implementation plan. But the big factor here is identification of additional funding and continued prioritization on the part of the region to move this forward. And so we're kind of in a holding pattern right now until both of those factors can be determined. So, with that, I'll say that from a VTrans perspective, we're very thankful for the partnership with ACRPC during the course of this study. As Mike and Adam both mentioned, this was a big lift and a massive undertaking for both the ACRPC team and our team. And it was a very tight partnership throughout this entire endeavor. And so just want to express my own gratitude on behalf of VTrans for the partnership with the Regional Planning Commission. We work with them on a number of different transportation planning activities. And certainly this was an extra homework, if you will, to add to that list. And so we'll see where this goes from here. But most importantly, again, a modicum of gratitude for all the work that's been done to get us to this point here today. So with that, I'm happy to stop sharing my screen here. And that's what we have for you all today.
Well, thank you so much. That was a really fascinating. I remember when this started back in 2021, when I moved back to the area. And it's cool to sort of see it come out the other side and some of the information about it. I guess at this point, we'll open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions on the presentation? Please go ahead.
I'd like to know how much the price tag of the construction and development costs influence the decision to bring the purple route back into the picture.
So the construction and development costs were portrayed and determined as part of this project purely just for informational purposes. The basis of the evaluation and the determination to select specific alternatives over others was entirely based on the purpose and need statement. So the information that you saw related to project costs, while informative, were not the basis of evaluation for which alternatives would move forward into subsequent project phases or not.
And I would say that's definitely true for VTrans. The policy committee may have had their own motivations that did not come up. The other thing I would say is like with the purple route, there's a perception that the purple route might be faster and easier to do. I'm not sure that that perception is correct, but remember it was the policy committee that brought that back in, not necessarily the consultants or VTrans.
And I have a follow-up to the question, which is normally what percentage of the cost would be federal dollars? And is that in jeopardy?
That's a good question. I would actually, if it's okay with you all, I can get back to Adam and Mike about that. Typically, for example, what we see, for example, the funding that we provide from a planning perspective to Edison ACRPC is 80% federal, 20% state funding. However, it might vary based off of other projects. And so again, this is a implementation project. So that might vary, but again, typically what we see from the planning side is that that's 80% federal and 20% state. Given that that does not have a funding source right now, we really can't answer the question about if that's in jeopardy or not. So it doesn't exist as a funding source. So there's no comment on if there's jeopardy, if it's in jeopardy or not.
So I'd follow up, and at the end of Matt's presentation, he said one of the next steps are to find the funding, and that the Regional Planning Commission and the towns, and we would hope in concert with VTrans, need to really lobby our legislators and try and get them to put this into basically the budget. So right now it's not there. It's not in the 20 or fiscal year 26 budget, which starts in July. The earliest it would get in would be 27. And if we want to make it happen, we need to, we really need to lobby the legislature. You know, your question about federal funds is a good one right now. When we started this process, there was a lot of federal money for construction available, and VTrans thought they actually had more than approved that they did. Construction prices have gone up pretty significantly. So VTrans has not been adding a lot of new projects in the last couple of years to its project list. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't get our legislators involved.
Thanks. Edward, I saw that you had your hand up before you turned off your video. Did you want to ask something? Nope, I guess he stepped away. Julia, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. This was fantastic, really a great study. I'm so glad that you had the amount of outreach that you had, so kudos. And I understand why you're keeping the purple route, but I guess I am concerned about the purple route because it will go through one of the quieter valleys of the Champlain Valley. And that really is a disruption for people who live here. So I noticed that it filled neither bill of your goals and objectives. And I'm presuming it's remaining in the docket only because of the price tag.
So short answer to that is these alternatives, if there is to be a subsequent implementation of this project, would be evaluated as part of a wider NEPA process, an environmental evaluation process. And so essentially what we've done up until this point is preempt some of the needs of that NEPA process through this preliminary planning and environmental linkages study. There are many different things that could happen. The purpose and need statement could be slightly evaluated to then think about additional alternatives that will come back into the equation and be evaluated again. But suffice to say that the future of the alternatives will be determined by the next phase, and alternatives might fall out or alternatives might come back in based off of how that more detailed evaluation under NEPA would proceed. So I realize that doesn't answer your question entirely, but suffice to say that there are still variables at play here as we move forward, if we are to move forward.
Yeah. And does the I know I'm old. I grew up around here, so I go back to 1973 when the choice was made where to put the road, the main road, you know, the interstate. And I guess I'm wondering whether there's anything in the state legislature which looks at projects like this, because we've been talking about doing a bypass in Virgins and one in Middlebury. I mean, remember that one? For some time, and it all has to do with the congestion in the western side of the state, really is what it is about, relative to the ease with which people can travel up the east side, if that makes sense. And does that figure into the ranking at all of VTrans's perspective on anything that happens in Addison County on Route 7?
The Highway 91 road to nowhere.
Matthew, do you want to touch?
Yeah, I heard somebody.
Matthew, do you want to touch
I
on?
think there's a lot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you want to touch on VPSP2 as an answer to that question?
What were you saying, Mike?
VPSP2.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry, I think there was a lag there with my internet for a second. I apologize. But the long and the short of it is, yes, when VTrans determines VTrans has a process by which projects are evaluated and prioritized called VPSP2, which is Vermont. I'm not going to remember the acronyms off the top of my head, but VPSP2 is our process by which projects are prioritized, and factors like that are taken into consideration, such as, volume of vehicles, designation of the roadway, connections made by that roadway, and so, or other assets that are being evaluated and prioritized. And so the long and the short of it is there is a prioritization system for existing projects and future projects. That system takes into account a slew of factors that are both geographic and people-based, and also accounts for input from the Regional Planning Commission as part of that. And so, again, I'm not sure if I answered your question entirely, but just to say that there are regional needs are certainly considered and factored into any project prioritization process.
Okay, good, great. Because I know it's a big ask to go over a river like that, and in that location, it's going to be a price tag. But it's exciting that you're thinking about one or another. I mean, you've got two in there, so kudos. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Edward, you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up. Okay. Anyone else?
Did you have a question in the room?
Well, I answered it a little bit. I was kind of wondering, what's the next step? You got three options. You've narrowed it down to this process. How are you going to get to a final decision on which one's going to be it?
So the next step is identification of additional funding, as well as continued prioritization and advocacy on the part of the Regional Planning Commission and municipalities participating in the study area. From there, these three alternatives go into a more in-depth federal planning process known as NEPA to be evaluated and then whittled down further to one. So again, part of that evaluation involves identifying using the purpose and need statement or modifying that purpose and need statement, doing further evaluations based off of that purpose and need statement to ultimately identify one alternative to proceed. But again, in order to activate that NEPA process, which is the kind of next step in a project development phase at VTrans, additional funding is required.
That NEPA process requires multiple options to go forward. When entering into it, VTrans can decide on a preferred alternative, but we would have to go with more than one alternative into NEPA.
Two questions. To go into the NEPA process, to identify funding, do you have to identify all the funding needed to fund the project, or is there some base limit? So those are obviously very different sizes of investment required.
That one's been a confusing question for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be identify funding sufficient to touch the maximum bound there, to answer your question. So given the variability of scale of these projects or potential future outcomes. And again, these are only preliminary cost estimates based off of VTrans estimating practice, as well as just a higher level view of the impacts associated with each of these. So these are a best reasonable guess right now, but that certainly additional costs would come to light as part of future evaluations. So I imagine it would be identification of funding sufficient to reach more of the maximum bound of what we saw at those estimates.
And then would it be possible for you guys to share offline the like detailed analysis that was done? I'm curious of like why some things were no versus yes on the statements and needs, using that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all on our VTrans Pell website. So the Regional Planning Commission has that link. Mike can share that with you. If not, you're welcome to email me and I'll share that with you, but it's all on our website.
Great, thank you guys.
Other
Do
questions?
we get an inside track on opinions of what looks better to the people who've been looking at it the most?
I think, we are, I'll channel my supervisor here in saying that we are stewards of a process, and stewards of a process requires that we remain agnostic. And so I know I'm giving you the government response right now, but that government response is that we must remain agnostic and proceed with an unbiased matter if we are to move forward with this as part of the evaluation and willing down to one final alternative.
And part of the reason Matthew is circumspect with that answer is we showed bias in the planning process. That is something later for the federal agencies to say we didn't do our job.
Exactly.
I was just looking for a little perspective.
And as a member of the technical committee, I would echo everything that you just heard.
Thank you, Shannon. For that double helping.
Other questions? I have one. It's a little off topic, so that's why I was waiting to see. But I guess I'll ask my question, which is that this is extraordinarily important for Virgins. I mean that's obvious. Anyone who's been downtown Virgins knows that this project needs to happen. However, I can't help but note that this isn't a problem that is individual to Virgins. I mean, any community along the 22A corridor suffers from the 22A corridor. Like I saw the other day from my porch, I have a view down to 22A, a crumpled 18-wheeler by the side of the road that was holding up traffic for hours and hours and hours. And like that was just like one I happened to see on a regular basis. I have a scanner. The Orwell Fire Department is being called out, to, particularly near Brookside, and other areas in Orwell along 22A, our volunteers are being called out, because there's yet another truck, on the side of the road, flipped over. And just the other day, I'm driving up 22A, a truck started swerving into my lane. I thought I was gonna have to ditch into the side of the road. Which is, I guess my question is like, why don't we make 22A for local trucks only? It would solve Virgin's problem. It would solve the problems, that the toll that this takes on our volunteers. I think about our volunteer fire department, volunteer EMS that's going out over and over and over again, using resources, because 22A is not a truck route. Route 4 is a truck route. Route 7 is a truck route. We could send all truck traffic down Route 4 and Route 7. And don't get me wrong, I realize that has an impact on communities there as well, but it's a larger road that was designed for truck traffic, and 22A is, practically a cow path. And I just wonder, like, is that ever going to be seriously looked at to solve this problem, not just for Virgins, but for all the communities that are impacted by 22A?
So Joe, the planning for road widening and improvements from Fairhaven to Addison is much further along than the Pels is. So those improvements will be made. In terms,
and I've watched that. I guess but my point is that I hope that will solve the problem, but I just have a concern, having watched it for years and just watched the impact on our community for years, just, while this is going on, even temporarily, to say, let's make this a local truck only route until the widening is done, so it can be something that's accessible, because, it's not just, not just the communities, but also the injured truck drivers. I'm sure some have passed away as well. I know people have passed away on 22A, because of some of the issues it has there. So like, while we're waiting for the widening to be complete, just to like help our communities and spare people, like, why can't we, is that at all looked at? Is that something that could be brought somewhere to discuss that from a planning perspective for our community, even on a temporary basis?
Diverting
Well,
traffic, diverting traffic to Route 4 and 7 would result in impacts to Rutland, Brandon, Pittsfield, Middlebury, all areas with much higher population densities than existing on 22A. It would also
And bigger
lead to
roads.
It would also lead to much higher travel times. The flow path for traffic is from the Port of Albany, where ships can unload north to Burlington County.
Mhm.
So you're increasing the distance, you're increasing impacts to a lot more people. And so that would be why that has not been part of the discussion.
Back to barges down the lake like we used to run.
That was one of
It's
the
not a bad
alternatives
idea.
considered and rejected.
Who rejected it?
Well, winter had a lot to do with it.
Who?
The fact that
Well,
the lake
I-
freezes.
Icy over.
It's not gonna happen anymore.
Not anymore.
It's not gonna happen anymore.
Put it on a
Yeah,
train.
I guess
That is
I'll
I guess I
just
just want
hop
to
in.
speak for these 22A communities and just say, for the record, that we are impacted by this as well, and it is really hard on our communities. And so that's what I'm sort of trying to say, perhaps being a bit hyperbolic, but it is something that is discussed in our town all the time, discussed in our surrounding towns all the time. Just the impact.
I'll just hop in and say, the state right now is concluding updates to our rail plan, and that will be rolled into updates to our freight plan. And so, as part of that, there will be outreach that will be facilitated by the regional planning commissions to provide feedback about freight right now across the state. And so, there will be opportunities in the future to bring additional needs or concerns to light. So just we can continue to keep you updated about that.
Cool. I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Joe, I think we should make yours the last and move on with the meeting. If
Sounds-
that's
Sounds good with me. So thank you both very much. Really appreciate it. This was absolutely fascinating to me. And appreciate all the work that's been put in by everyone on the teams to make this, make this feasible, so we can move forward with this important update for our communities. So with that, I'm just going to move over to the agenda on my computer here. Okay. So with that, we'll move on to
Yeah,
the
good night.
business agenda. Thanks. Have a good one. Move on to the business agenda, which is starts with the approval of the minutes from the May 14th, 2025 meeting. Does anyone note any errors or omissions in those minutes? Hearing none, if we could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the May 14th, 2025 minutes, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, opposed and abstentions.
I
Okay,
Wasn't here for
okay. So
Joy
Tim
is abstaining.
and Joya. Anybody else abstaining? And Joe, did you catch who seconded it? I heard the voice, but I didn't see the face.
Stephen Pilcher.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and we've passed the minutes, approved the minutes of the May 14th, 2025 meeting. The next item on the agenda are the executive board minutes for the May 28th, 2025 meeting of that body. Does anyone have any questions about those minutes?
Sorry, Adam, that was my bad. I was supposed to abstain from the executive board meeting. Minute.
Okay, no questions there. So next up is the treasurer's report with Adam.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, the treasurer's report for the month of March, ending March 31st, was included in your packet. There was a statement of financial activities and a statement of financial position. Largely your P&L is a statement of financial activities. Your balance sheet is the statement of financial position. I'm not going to share these. You should all have them in your package. If you want me to share them, let you know if you have questions. What I will tell you is, as of the end of March 2025, basically we had income of about 1.261 million. We had expenses of 1.246 million, or net ordinary income of $15,000. So through March, we are running in the black. We're always happy to see that happen. I expect it will dip a little bit for April and May, because we have a lot of quarterly invoices, and then we will come back into the black in June. So at the end of the fiscal year, that's what we're shooting for. Moving over to the statement of financial position, this is the balance sheet. It shows total assets of basically 1.1 million. It shows total liabilities of $676,000. Leaving basically total equity of $445,000, including the $15,000 that we've made thus far this year. So we have a fair amount of money in uncertain times to continue planning. Ross.
So in the statement of financial activities,
yep,
it's the first 9 months of this year.
Correct.
Can you tell me who picks up your trash? I don't want them to pick up my trash for $31.
I just was looking at that.
So
Never
basically, if you look at the janitorial line, so it's about $1,200, $1,275.
So the trash pickup is in janitorial, you
A
said?
lot of it. Sometimes we have some excess, and but yes, the trash pickup is in janitorial.
Okay, so it's confusing because now you have a trash removal, but then you also have janitorial. Maybe they should be combined.
They should be. Pre-COVID, we had a lot more trash in the office, honestly, and we didn't get it done through janitorial. But since then, it's decreased pretty significantly, and less paper, and we've been able to do it in janitorial.
Well, because my dreams of saving on trash.
When we do spend money, it is with the horse-drawn trash man.
Nice.
Yep. Happy to take any other questions on either financial activities or position.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we can move on. If we could have a motion to approve the treasurer's report and financials from March 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Shannon?
Second.
Didn't see who said second, but
Joe. Tim.
Tim
oh,
Davis.
Tim. Okay, awesome. Okay, any further discussion of the treasurer's report?
Only what are the yellow highlights in here? What are the let me scroll through, Adam.
Oh, you're looking at the looking at the budget.
Sorry.
I haven't presented that yet. I'll present that later.
Oh,
in
you
the
will
meeting.
get, okay.
Yep.
Good. I was scrolling back up to it.
Hold yours.
Okay, with no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye or indicate in some other manner your agreement.
Aye.
Oppose nay or thumbs down. And abstentions. Okay, the ayes have it, and you have approved the treasurer's report with the financials for March 31st, 2025. The next item on the agenda is are the committee reports. And so we'll just go down the list, starting with Act 250.
Did not meet this month, Joe.
Okay, energy.
Let's see. Energy had an informal meeting. They are editing the regional energy plan, and Cheryl broke her shoulder. I think I can tell. She told me that, so I guess I can share that with you. So that's why she's not with us tonight. So if you see her, give her your best wishes. But anyway, they are very, very close to finishing up a final draft of the regional energy plan for your review. They're hoping to present that final draft to you at our July meeting. It may slip to our next meeting in September, but they're hoping for July right now.
Great. Local government.
Did not meet, but we are planning to have a public hearing with New Haven on June 30th.
Sounds good. Natural resources.
Did not meet, but we plan to meet in July.
Great. The TAC.
The TAC met in May. Matthew Langham of V-Trans presented the State Transportation Investment Plan, STIP, which details all the projects on which V-Trans intends to spend money in the next 3 to 5 years. Mike also presented a rundown of the work the state will do in Addison County this construction season. And if you had anything else you wanted to add.
No, that's all. Bike ped grants due July 11th, if anybody towns are interested in that.
Which grants are those?
Bicycle and pedestrian.
Okay.
Great. Housing.
Just met. So we just met and we have a couple of interns that, or I should say, college students, correct? Who are also interning. Did I get that right?
And they're not ours. They're Anna's or they're.
Oh, Anna, I'm sorry, Anna.
Okay.
But I just remember you guys are both from Middlebury College
Yes.
and completed some, I want to let you speak for yourself. We have Isla and Mina. Mina, sorry. Would you like to speak to the rest of the group? Just quickly give them a snapshot of what we discussed on the demographic work you've been doing?
We've been working for the past couple weeks with Anna, looking at population demographics in Addison County and pulling data from the US Census to look at what are the trends specifically for populations over the age of 65 and then people under the age of 18. So that would be people who would be attending schools in the area, and kind of creating charts to show the significant increase in populations over 65 and the significant decrease in populations under 18. And we've done that for every town as well as the whole of Addison County.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see the whole Addison County demographic shifts. And then they've gone down on a pretty granular level for each one of the towns. And we looked at a few of those, including Cornwall and Shoreham.
And they're at the disposal of the Regional Planning Commission staff as they have discussions with each of the towns about rollout of Act 181 and setting housing targets.
Great, thank you.
That's something that we'll be able to share if it's ready.
Yeah, I know that, Mina, you got that over to Katie already, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I shared the folder and it has information from all the towns in Addison County.
Yeah, Katie has it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Economic development.
Yeah, that would be me. And we did meet once. We had a kickoff meeting for the REDS, which is the Regional Economic Development Strategy that Economic Development ACEDC is developing, and which will take the place of our economy chapter in our regional plan. So those folks at ACEDC went over the process for creating it, and goals and objectives. And I have asked for some data that came from the SEDS, because I found that when we did the SEDS, which was looking at 4 different counties that were joined together with Addison County in Vermont for a special, it was a grant that we got to be a part of. And potentially we may be able to get more funds because of it, but that may not come to pass. But nonetheless, it was an incredible exercise looking at all of the different numbers that came in. And so we're going to get that granular data and call a working meeting just to look over those things. And the committee and anybody else who would be interested in attending that, it would be great to have you. And Alex, I know I haven't had a chance to talk to you, but I'm hoping you are interested in doing that with us as well.
Yeah, of course. No, that all sounds good, and especially for somebody who was not here for the SEDS process. Yeah, I would definitely love to look at that data and understand what went into that. So yeah, we are excited to be moving forward with REDS.
Yeah, it is great. Thank you. That's all we have, I believe.
Okay, thanks so much. Steve, for some reason, yeah, okay, cool. There was a screen being shared there that. Okay, so next up is Joint Partners Report, Delegate and Staff Recognition.
Let's see. So, Alex, would you care to say anything more? Whoop, you're muted.
Sorry, on economic development or on?
Sure. As one of our partners, anything you want to highlight for us that you all are working on or you think we should know about?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, I'll just say we just had our board retreat on May 22nd, and that really focused on strategic planning for the next year. Adam, as a board representative, participated in that. And the one thing I'll just share from that is that we really are putting a new focus. Apologies, you may hear one of the army of cats behind me. But our board has committed to really prioritizing housing as part of our strategy moving forward in the next year. So we'll be really looking at how we can play a more active role in facilitating housing development in the county. And I think that will really take the form of us being a leader in rolling out the new project-based TIF program that was approved in the state legislature this year, and making sure that our municipalities, from Middlebury down to our smaller municipalities, Virgins, Bristol, have the ability to take advantage of that tool. And it really likely will focus on the larger municipalities. But anyway, all that to say, we are doing a lot of planning around housing for the next year. Otherwise, I'll just share that my predecessor, Fred Kenny, will be wrapping up with us at the end of the month. Fred has been an amazing advocate here in Addison County for the last 8 years. So I'm sure some folks here have had the pleasure and the opportunity of working with Fred. I would encourage you to send him a note, or if you see him around town, just give him a nod and thank him for all his hard work. Again, he's been a great champion for business and economic development here in Addison County. So I'm very appreciative personally of everything he's done. Yeah, wish him the best. So that's all from us at the moment, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
And
yeah, Fred is awesome. I agree.
Joe, for delegate and staff recognition, it is the end of our fiscal year. The June meeting is the last meeting in our fiscal year. Our new fiscal year starts July 1st. We did invite some of the appointees or the new members for next year tonight. I see at least one from Middlebury. Phil Pedlinkin is here, and I wanted to welcome him. Hopefully, I think he's the only one that I see here. I also know at least one of us, this will be their last meeting, and that's Ross Conrad from Middlebury. So wanted to say welcome to Phil and thank you to Ross for all that you've done.
What am I gonna do?
Thank you, Ross.
Woo-hoo! Thank you, Ross. Welcome.
And welcome, Phil.
Okay, did I miss anybody else that's here new that it's hard to see on the screen sometimes, so I apologize if I did.
I don't think so, but if you're new, speak now. Okay, cool. So we'll move on to old business. That starts with the Maple broadband update.
Yeah, Joe, that was me trying to do a quick share screen that you didn't understand. I'd like to show a slide, but I'm afraid it's not gonna work. I think maybe permissions are gonna be needed. Let me try sharing. If it immediately goes south on me, let's just, we do have it here. This is the one I wanted to do. And what we want to look at is, hold on a moment, please. All right. Can you see a slide that says Maple Broadband on it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, we can do it then. It looks like it's going to be a long run-on presentation, but I promise it is not. It's just that so much has been going on since we first got started. I just needed to kind of catch everyone up and try to make sure nobody gets confused. This is basically how the money, so far, everything that Maple Broadband has done has been built with grant money. And we're still hoping that our final infrastructure will all be paid for through grant money, which would be great. So I just worked this up this afternoon and I hope it makes sense, but basically Maple Broadband essentially got started through the auspices of ACRPC back in 2021 when the American Rescue Plan was established, and that kind of was based on a need to help people tolerate and cope with all the issues associated with COVID-19. And VCBB Vermont received $90 million, and a share of that $90 million was received by our operation, our CUD, Maple Broadband. And we've built a lot of infrastructure. Most of our counties are served to one degree or another by broadband service, and we only need more money to continue to build out and complete our obligation. That was in March of 21, and then shortly thereafter, the Biden administration executed a bipartisan infrastructure act, and it was two parts of it. One was a BEAD program, which was a big guy, and that's actually spending balance of money that we hope will be needed to provide broadband service to every address in the state. There's also a smaller portion of it called a digital equity program. That one's basically to work with the communities to provide greater levels of digital literacy, basically help people understand the things that they can do with their new broadband service. Back in January, as you are well aware, there was a change in leadership in Washington, and in May, the digital equity program that was listed just above there for 5.3 million was canceled. You might want to read about that. It's fairly subjective, but it's according to Harold Lutnick, who's the head of the Secretary of Commerce for the U.S., and Donald Trump both said that it's unconstitutional, and you arrive at your own conclusion on that. But I know the state of Vermont Attorney General is working on that, but as it stands right now, that money is not available any longer. Then about a month later, another announcement came out of Howard Lutnick, who was potentially doing BEAD policy restructuring. And the big distinction between the original BEAD program and the new one is that it is bandwidth agnostic. That means the original program said fiber only is preferred. And there's a host of explanations for why that is. But there's other resources like low Earth orbit, like Starlink, and all kinds of like Verizon, wireless, all those things are out of consideration based on decisions were made originally in BEAD. Well, it was decided in Washington that it would be best to level the playing field and say all broadband types of service are permissible. And so what that means is that we originally had a fair amount of Maple Broadband in Vermont had a fairly strong degree of control over how we were going to spend our money. And we were focused on building fiber because that was a solution shared not only by the state, but also by the federal government. Well, one could argue, if one were a cynic, that maybe it's agnostic now because Elon Musk was involved with the federal government and had a vested interest in promoting low Earth orbit like Starlink. So that might have been a driver in that decision, but ultimately it has a huge effect on us. The state was expecting $229 million to finish the job. And it's probably reasonable to assume that it's going to be less than that because the money may go elsewhere. Now, there's a lot of issues between now and then. This was back just June 6th. Here we are, the 11th. So we really don't know much more about it, but we're in the process of working with the federal government and the state to narrow it down, figure out, okay, well, what's acceptable? And I think that's going to take us a better part of the year to get that accomplished. There's some intervals that are included in the notices that we're working against and tracking, and we're actively engaged in that. And I think our original plan had been that by now, actually, we would begin our BEAD funded infrastructure, and we do not know how much it's going to be and when it's going to arrive. So I'm estimating 5 to 7 months. So we're going to be, beads may not be sorted out until next year. It may be sorted. If it gets sorted out sooner than that, we can maybe get started this year, but there's a lot of work to do. And I don't think we want to raise our hopes too high on that. Regardless of BEAD and the presence or absence of it, we still have some ARPA funds, some American Rescue Plan funds remaining from what we've already built. Not a lot, but we have enough to make a difference. Part of it was 500, I think it was 50,000. No, it wasn't. It's 500,000 donated by towns out of their area ARPA funds. And then it was doubled by the state. So there's a lot of money coming in, but it's not 10 million. It's more like $500,000 or 1 million. So we do have funds. We're going to be spending the money this year for the balance of this year. We're not going to have much to report to the ACRPC in the next few months because not much is going on, but we will be doing some construction where we can optimize our network. And also we're going to focus more tightly on marketing, because I think part of our challenge is not only getting our infrastructure in front of a lot of homes, but it's also informing our communities that we're around and the benefit of a municipal broadband operation. So we'll be busy. You'll see us in marketing terms, and you'll probably see our vehicles out, bucket trucks and whatnot, doing some work. We're doing some work, a little bit of work up north of Virgins. We'll be doing some work in Gonetspeed towns, which are one of the carriers in the southwest corner of our county. We're going to be doing some work in that area as well, maybe a little bit in Whiting, a little bit in Leicester, with what money we have left to optimize that. And then concurrently, we're working on compliance with whatever BEAD throws at us. And once we know what that looks like, we can give you some kind of a commitment as to how much money we hope to receive and when, but we may not be able to report that to you until the latter part of the year at best. Hey, Joe, what do you got?
I have the baby.
Yeah, regardless, that was essentially my report, Joe. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Steve? Okay, hearing none. We will move over to the next item up for business, which is Act 181 Outreach Plan Update.
Okay, so thank you, Joe. Let's see. I may take a quick attempt at sharing my screen. I may not. That gets me that, and that's not what I want. I want Act 181 rollout. Can you all see basically that colored graph up on the screen? Yes? Great. I need to make it bigger for myself and everybody else. Okay, that will work. And I should drag that basically out of the way a little bit. So I would tell you, Act 181 is basically the Act 250 jurisdictional reform that was passed by the legislature in 2024. It sets basically thresholds for where Act 250 will be loosened in villages, allowing more housing development, and where it will be tightened, Tier 3. Which is yet to be developed by the Land Use Review Board. Also, as part of the process, the regional planning commissions were charged with creating a regional land use map, basically of all, including all of your towns. And we were in charge of creating a methodology that was methodology that was uniform across the state. So when we talked about a village, we we're all talking about the same thing. When we talked about a rural general area or a rural conservation area, we we're all talking about the same thing. The biggest impact of that map will be on your villages. Basically, towns will have the opportunity to declare their villages. They could apply for Tier 1A, which would allow them unlimited housing development in their villages. Probably only Middlebury and Vergennes have the infrastructure to do that in Addison County. All other towns could opt into Tier 1B, which would exempt their villages from Act 250 for up to 50 units of housing. And it's an opt-in approach. The select board basically of your towns have to opt in. Danelle and Katie and Rebecca and I have gone out and basically visited all 21 towns in the region, or we'll have it done by the end of June. And we've done we will have everybody done at least once by the end of June, and some of you actually 2 or 3 times. Hannah's created basically maps for all of the towns, for all of your planning commissions to look at. We've been taking a lot of good public input. So something like that area should be part of our village, that area should not be part of our village because it's under conservation or it's all wetlands or some other reason. So you all know your towns a lot better than we do. So we really appreciate the local input. We will be fine tuning our regional map, like I say, through June. We're hoping to have at least a draft, and we can still tweak it according to the needs of your towns and input of other community members throughout the summer. So getting the regional plan map together by June, we'll go out with community outreach or more regional outreach at the end of June. So been focusing on your towns through June. And that's basically what this is, our tracking sheet of who's doing what to whom and when all your planning commissions meet and such. And then we will hold basically, like I said, a number of other outreach meetings to different populations in the region on the regional plan throughout the summer. We'll probably go out and do some tabling at some local events like the farmers market, maybe some other events, and we'll look to have the future land use section of our plan done this fall. All of the sections of our plan done by December. We'll present them to the Land Use Review Board in December. They have 60 days basically to review the regional plan. They'll make their comments, they'll get it back to us. We will do basically more public hearings and the required public hearings after we get it back from the Land Use Review Board. So March, April, May, sometime in that time frame, and we'll be looking to approve the regional plan, including the new land use section, probably this time next year, prior to our existing plan expiring in July. So that is my update. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Great.
Have you gotten any feedback on the road rule? Just out of curiosity.
So Tom just asked me about the road rule, which was also part of the legislation. So Act 181. That is a jurisdictional change within Act 250 itself. It doesn't have a lot to do with our map, but it will impact a lot of your communities. So what the road rule says is that if you build a road of greater than 800 feet or a road and a system of driveways of greater than 2,000 feet, you will be subject to Act 250. Your development will be subject to Act 250. So it could just, you could build an 800-foot road and put one house at the end of it, and you would be subject to Act 250. You could build an 800-foot road with 3 houses and say 3 400-foot driveways and be subject to Act 250. So it is significant in and of itself because 800 feet in the big scheme of things isn't that far. So the road rule, if people want to try and access forested areas, forested blocks in a lot of your towns, and you can see where your roads are, they will be subject to Act 250 because of the road rule. So that's what Tom was asking me about. There are certainly towns that are concerned about the road rule and how much of the state it subjects to Act 250 jurisdiction and what it might do to rural housing, rural places. But we have not got that much feedback on it because we have no control over it. Our maps have no control over it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Adam. I guess the next thing is old business. Any other old business?
I do not have any for you, Joe.
Thank you. So we'll move on to new business, which starts with the annual mailing to municipalities, appointments to RPC and tech.
Okay, and this is just an update. We sent that mailing out about a month ago or so. Thank you to all of you that have had your select boards reappoint you and to the new members that were appointed. If you have not heard from your select board that you have been reappointed to the RPC or the TAC, please reach out to them. Our new fiscal year starts July 1st, and we want to have every town officially represented. So thank you for your efforts on that.
Great, thank you. The next thing is a staffing update.
Yes, and this is sad news for me in that April Quageot, who is our office manager, left us a little bit unexpectedly for personal reasons at the end of last month, so at the end of May. So that means that right now, Rebecca Elder, who is one of our planners and was formerly the town administrator for the town of Starksboro, is really stepping in and helping out. We are also moving very quickly to hire probably a couple of different replacements. We're working to put together a team for finance so that we can keep up with our accounting and our payroll and our bills. I'm happy to say that we have hired a part-time person for one position to do a lot of the financials for us. She's coming to us from the co-op next door, where she had done extensive work in QuickBooks on accounts receivable and payables, and she'll start towards the end of the month. So I don't have an official letter, so I haven't given you her name yet, but I think she'll be a good fit. We're going to keep her working with Rebecca, supported by basically a CFO for rent for a few hours a month. So if we do run into some problems, we have some high-level backup for them. And once we see what we can do with that team, we'll probably hire another person for both office administration and finance to get us back where we should be. So we're really going to miss April, but we're putting things in place to make us stronger and get us better systems. Not that hers were bad, but we can always use this as an opportunity to improve. And yeah, if we're a little slow with bills or invoices in the transition, I apologize, but it's a big transition for us. April did a lot of work for us, and we're sorry to see her go. So, any
Agreed.
questions? Thank you.
I ended up having to communicate with her a couple times a month, and she was great. So sad to see her go. Yeah, any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. Next thing up is vote on proposed annual work plan and budget for the fiscal year of 2026. And the budget is attached to your commission package.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull that up on screen, and I'm gonna walk through that with you as well, I hope. If I go here, let's see, and I go share, and then I go here. Okay, can all of you see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and outside of the room, Joe, you can see that? Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
So budget, as Joe said, was in your package. Basically, it's revenue. We have a number of different grants. We probably have about 40 of them. I'm gonna hit the big highlights or the things that I have highlighted in yellow. And Tim, the reason they were highlighted in yellow is that I'm not exactly positive about them, but they're certain enough for me to put in the budget. So for example, EEC Virgin's subcontract that's highlighted, it's $26,000. That's work for us to do enhanced energy plans for a number, like 6 different municipalities in the region. We've submitted the grant to DPS. They have submitted the grant to Federal Department of Energy. All things are go, but the Federal Department of Energy has had some issues. We've got another EECBG grant that's not on this list because it's been in limbo for 6 months. So I'm a little leery of it, but I put it in there anyway. So that's what the yellow highlights mean, are things where, you know, we've got to adopt a budget before next year. This is our opportunity to do that. But I wanted to point out to all of you that there are things beyond my control. I can make my best guesses, and the yellow is my yellow are highlighting best guesses. So DHCD $615,000. This is what I call my favorite money. Actually, your dues are my favorite money because we can use those for nearly anything. The DHCD money can be used for any type of planning. So it could be energy planning, it could be emergency planning, it could be housing planning. So I try and guard that one and spend contracts first. TA, municipal planning grants, that's where we work with your towns on either your plans or zoning or subdivision regulations. We still have some accessory dwelling unit money. That money will largely pass through to people building accessory dwelling units in Addison County. The Two Rivers Ottaquechee Municipal Assistance MTAP money is largely passing through to Salisbury for their town hall. Climate pollution reduction, NRCP climate pollution reduction, that money is basically for energy planning. So it's helping us write the regional energy plan. Water supply system aid is a brand new grant. It's pretty substantial. We are the general contractor for all of the other regional planning commissions for the state. So the Vermont Bond Bank gave us some money. We are distributing this $199,000. We're distributing the lion's share of it, probably all but $50,000, to other regional planning commissions to work with water systems basically around the state of Vermont, help them with administration, help them with accounting. The bond bank was worried about some of the smaller water systems in the state that they wanted other eyes to go out and to give them some technical assistance on the ground. Moving on to transportation projects, transportation TPI, Transportation Planning Initiative TPI, $230,000 this year. It's down a little bit from last year because we do not have the PELS grant that just ended. Mike presented on that earlier. That's our transportation planning money. It's our prime transportation planning money. Other transportation money, you can see the $12,000 for municipal project management for Weybridge, Bridport, Ferrisburg, and Bristol. Basically, that's Mike helping your towns put in new infrastructure. In Bridport, it's a big culvert. In Weybridge, it's a portion of a road. In Ferrisburg, it's sidewalk, and in Bristol, it's sidewalk. CCRP.
Sidewalk we were looking at? No.
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 That's
Elementary
the
school.
Elementary school, yeah.
Okay, CCRPC RAISE grant. This is a grant through the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission to work with the towns of Middlebury, Vergennes, and Ferrisburg to look at housing development basically near their rail infrastructure. I will go right to the clean water service provider slide highlighted in yellow, $1 million. It's the biggest part of our budget. Most of that money is intended to pass through to people doing water quality projects. This year we also passed about a $2 million budget at 3/4 of the year where we have revenue of about 1.2. A big part of the discrepancy is in this clean water service provider grant. We get about $1 million each year. We have not had groups taking us up on or putting in applications to do water quality projects under that program. So the money hasn't gone away. We still have it. We are still looking for projects. There is a grant application open right now that closes when, Mike?
I think it's June 20th.
So relatively soon.
But it's a rolling application, so we just review the applications quarterly.
Okay, so a lot of money. If you're interested in clean water projects, you're a group that you're affiliated, your town, we have the town of Shoreham has a clean water service provider. The town of Vergennes has a clean water service provider grant. We've worked with Middlebury College. We've worked with the Vermont Land Trust. We've worked with Addison County River Watch. We've worked with the town of West Rutland is our biggest user right now because we're Otter Creek Clean Water Service provider. So we provide this to most of Addison County and most of Rutland County. Rutland Regional Planning Commission provides the direct drainage to the lake. So portions of Addison, Bridport, Ferrisburg, Shoreham, Penn. Let's see, EPA brownfields assessment. We are getting towards the end of that grant, but that's the money that we have used basically to do brownfields assessments, to determine whether or not a property is polluted before it can be redeveloped. So have done a number of projects over the last couple of years. The Moose Lamu Master Plan, we have 2 interns working this summer to help us on the Moose Lamu Master Plan. That's part of the Forest Service. The Middlebury College Master Plan, it's actually, I should have put some money in there. We spent most of it this year. It's going to bleed over just a tiny bit into next year as Hannah completes that project for the college. I'm going to have her present that project to all of you because it's a pretty they own 3,000 acres in basically the Champlain Valley that's not part of the campus. It looks at all of those lands and basically provides an assessment, an app for a tool so that they can go and digitally look at all of them. We think it'll be a pretty interesting learning tool for their students, for their professors, and for the administration that controls the money. And we're hoping that they will manage a lot of that property more actively, either for natural resources or for other things. So I am definitely going to have Hannah present that to you once it goes live. EMPG. 23, the $25,000 here, I've highlighted that because generally this is our base funding for emergency management. As you all know, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management, is also being impacted at the federal level. I got notice yesterday that this actually may be level funded, and I may be able to put it back up to $50,000, but it's still a little up in the air. So I cut it in half this year just because I don't really know. Andrew is working on a lot of local hazard mitigation plans for your towns. How do we prevent disaster? How do we promote resilience? What are the actions with infrastructure that our towns can take? Act 172, the municipal building weatherization, and this is my last one. So I'm not gonna go through expenses like this, but I like to go through the revenue side of the budget, so that you know the things that basically staff is doing in between commission meetings on your behalf. Act 172, municipal building weatherization. $50,000 here. This is to help each of your communities that received MERP grants, municipal building weatherization grants. There were 10 of them. So 10 of the communities in Addison County received pretty substantial money, about $4 million, I think, within the county to weatherize or improve the efficiency on a lot of municipal buildings in Addison County. So we hope that'll make a nice difference for all of your communities. Jolien is helping you with that. That gets to a budget of $2.5 million, roughly. Others expenditures, you can see building expenditures, rubbish, janitor, insurance, general office, accounting, advertising, dues, general programs, copy machines, phones, hardware. You can see software subscriptions at $25,000. That's a pretty substantial increase from last year. I think last meeting, I talked to you about the IT upgrades that we were making. That's largely reflective of those. The firewall is in. We will be migrating data to the new system sometime after the first of the year. And that's going to depend a little bit on our financing positions and such, and getting that under control first. Grant expenses, these are just direct expenses associated with each of the grants. So the biggest expense there, water supply system aid. We've reserved money from the bond bank to either buy software or hire professional accountants or other consultants to help us with some of that outreach work for the municipal water supply system. So expenses go in this category. They're associated with each grant. Capital budget network computers. We're buying several new computers. Salaries, I highlighted that. Salaries is up. Largely because I am looking, there's some in there for raises, about 5%. And I'm also looking to potentially increase the financial management staff, office management staff a little bit to make sure that we are financially solvent moving forward. Health insurance is up. That is by far. So if you look at the wage related expenses, that's the majority of our budget. The rest is consultants that we pay to do specific projects. So again, if I focus on the water systems aid, you can see the other RPCs in there at $144,000. Transportation TPI, there's $70,000 in there. That's for local planning projects, transportation planning projects that we do in your towns. This year we are working with Mike.
Bristol is looking at what it would take to upgrade a class 4 road to a class 3 road, and Ripton is looking at what it would take to address some erosion issues on the Natural Turnpike, and Orwell would like some guidance on placing a crosswalk on Route 73 to connect the elementary school and the library.
So local projects that are generally engineering based that we can't do, we reserve a little bit of our TPI money to help and put out those grants each year to different towns. You can see clean water service provider, $900,000 of that million, we're looking at getting out the door to do water quality projects. Brownfields money, most of that money passes through us as well to do site assessments. Gets us to a subtotal of 1.2. Total expenses 2.547. Going back up, you can see our, oops, I had a cheat note right up here. Goes on. I guess it's, wow. I made a last minute change and I thought I had a little extra money in there. It looks like it's a $6,000 deficit. I want to present you with a balanced budget. I don't want to give you a $6,000 bit. So I'm going to have to tweak it so that it works if you'll let me. But it's very, very close to a balanced budget. Son of a gun. And I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Wrong.
I made a couple last minute tweaks too because of a couple information I got, and I didn't look at the total. I didn't think they'd affect it. And I was wrong.
The one that you sent out actually also had a deficit, and my first question was, "Oh, how are you going to handle that?" But you know, that's our fiduciary responsibility. But I'm imagining that you probably have some answers, and there's enough unknown there. I don't know how.
I am very confident I can come up with a way to find $7,000 on a $2.5 million budget.
That's what I figured.
Yes, and if I need to check my work, so apologize for that.
If that's the worst thing that happens all week, you're good.
Thank you, Troy.
Are you saying you can't ask us to approve a budget with a deficit in it?
I don't like to.
Well,
but I guess what I would, if I were to ask for a motion, I'd ask you to say, we approve the budget pending Adam basically amending it to at least a break-even budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Anna.
Seconded.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that, Adam, how you put it, I think, was that we'd be approving the budget pending your balancing it. And you would be presenting that at the next commission meeting?
Correct.
Okay. Great. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the budget pending Adam presenting a balanced version at the July 2025 meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, Joya. Please go ahead. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, you're voting?
I'm voting.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were asking questions. So I'll just ask for, again, those in favor of approving the budget pending Adam presenting a balanced budget at the July 2025 meeting, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, nay or thumbs down. And any abstentions? Okay, so you have passed the budget pending Adam presenting a balanced budget at the July 2025 meeting.
Sorry.
Okay, so if there's nothing else on that, the next order of business is other new business, Adam?
I do not have any other new business for you.
Okay, so next up is members' concerns, information, announcements, anything like that.
I have one member's concern. I just wanted to say thank you to Joe for being chair and all his work for the last year. Also wanted to recognize Jeremy Grip and Jamie Dayton, who are stepping off the executive board.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to act in this role, and I think I said most of what I would want to say right now at when we were all meeting in person. So just thank you for that, and thank you all for serving. It has been a lot of fun being chair.
Thank you.
Any other announcements or information or concerns? Okay, hearing none, absent objection, I will adjourn our meeting of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission until its regularly scheduled meeting in July. And without objection, so ordered. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Nice.